It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Kruse.
Welcome to the show. You've probably heard some of these old sayings before, like everything's coming up roses, or don't rain on my parade, or when it rains it pours. Well, let's just say when it came to the show this week, in my prep for it, it's been pouring rain. And what happened was this. I pre-record this show a couple days in advance of it airing, and I always line up interviews. Of course, people are busy, so they have to take time out of their schedules. And I found out that I was having some phone issues, so I couldn't receive phone calls from any of my guests. I had to call them, not a big deal. But when I did, the phone's conversation sounded fine. But once I looked at the files and started trying to edit them and reduce noise and things like that, all three interviews were completely unusable. So call CenturyLink, my phone provider. As you've heard on this show, I've had some issues with them before. And the third person that helped me was actually able to help me. And so now I can actually get phone calls again. And actually the interviews sound good again. So the bottom line is this. You're going to be getting a mixture of old and new today. So our new guests are going to include Richard Sims. He is the editor of Crappie Now. They've just dropped their March 2024 issue. And one of the stories in there is about the best lakes to fish for crappie in 2024. Richard's going to tell you the top three. Richard is also the owner of Scenic City Fishing out of Chattanooga. And if you want to fish the Tennessee River for all sorts of different species of fish, not just crappie, but catfish and bass and even walleye, he can set you up for that too. The other new guest we'll talk to today is Tristan Henry. He is the Oregon field representative for the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, and they have got some good news to share. The Bureau of Land Management, which manages several million acres in southeast Oregon, has come up with a new resource management plan where 420,000 acres of prime habitat for fish and wildlife are going to be managed for that prime habitat. And this is really big news for hunters and anglers who sometimes come out on the short end of the stick when it comes to the different user groups who want to use BLM lands. So those are our new guests. Now let's talk about some of our old guests. I reached back into our vault in 2022, found a couple really good interviews I think you're going to like. One of them is with Ron Spomer. He is that very well-known author and man who's all about shooting and ballistics. We're going to talk about the best and the worst classic deer calibers that are out there. Ron's going to give you his take on some calibers that maybe need to be thrown in the trash bin of history and some other ones that are still holding up pretty well. And then there's our first guest of the day. This is also a conversation from 2022. We'll be talking to Derek Horner. He wrote a great article for Outdoor Life about hunting white-tailed deer on public lands in the plains of Nebraska. By the way, this portion of the show is brought to you by our friends at Work Sharp. And if you are out hunting and tag out on a deer, you're going to need a sharp knife, maybe a couple of sharp knives. And that's why you want to have either a pocket knife sharpener or a guided field sharpener from Work Sharp that you can have right with you. So you can keep those knives sharp, get the job done when it comes to cleaning that deer and then quartering the meat. You can look for Work Sharp products just about anywhere quality sporting goods are stored, or you can shop online anytime at worksharptools.com. That's worksharptools.com. One other thing we'll be talking about today is a developing situation in the Brooks Range. That's in the far north of Alaska. It's home to a huge caribou herd, lots of other big game, and fish like sheafish and char and Arctic grayling. It's very pristine. It's really rough to get to, but mining interests are hoping to build a road that's going to stretch 211 miles into this habitat, and that could have some really damaging effects on the fish and wildlife there, especially when they start opening up mines. Got this information from Jen Leahy at the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. Unfortunately, the audio we recorded was unusable, but I'll share a synopsis with you towards the end of our program today. And with that in mind, let's start with our first interview of the day. Next up on America Outdoors Radio, we've got Derek Horner on the line. He wrote an article that's in the current edition of Outdoor Life that is about hunting whitetails on the prairie, specifically about a hunt that Greg Clements went on in South Dakota and Nebraska. Derek, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, John. I'm excited to be here.
You know, most of the time when I interview folks who are writing magazines about hunts, they're talking about their own hunts. Why don't you tell me a little bit about Greg Clements and how his hunt got to be in print?
Sure, yeah. So, as you mentioned, it's pretty regular to see people talking about their own hunts in magazines. I talked with our editor-in-chief here at Outdoor Life at the beginning of this season and talked to him about the YouTube channel, The Hunting Public, and that's where Greg Clements comes in. Greg helped start that channel a couple of years back, and I wanted to talk to the Hunting Public crew as they go on each of their hunts throughout the season. They hunt from September 1st the whole way through January, and they put it all on their YouTube channel. And I figured there's a lot of learnings that people can get from that. So I've got the unique opportunity to sit down with those guys after they complete their hunt, successful or not, and take tips and tactics that they learned and write that down and tell people about it.
Well, you did a great job with it, and Greg was going on a bow hunt to South Dakota, Nebraska. You basically have three different acts, you might say, of this play or this story, and the first one was don't rely on last year's scouting and intel. Go ahead and tell us about this chapter.
Sure. So in that first chapter there, our first section of this article, Clements went to an area in the Black Hills where he's hunted quite a bit in the past. About 15 years ago was actually his first time out there, so lots of experience there. And I feel like a lot of people who hunt the same area year after year will kind of relate to this information because it's super easy to just go in and say, like, well, this is where the deer were moving last year. But Greg learned the lesson the hard way. He went in, didn't do a whole lot of scouting before his hunt, got there, and the entire area had changed. They had some cows grazing in that area all summer, so they changed the undergrowth, and because of the, that factor, the deer had moved on, and it took him a couple days of his hunt to really locate where those deer had gone to.
Next chapter, or next subject, I should say, and this is one I have not heard before, but it makes a lot of sense. Stalk into your hunting location. Yeah,
this one's a big one. No matter where you live in the country, if you're hunting whitetail deer or mule deer or just, whatever you're hunting in general, taking your time getting to the stand or the area you want to set up is the best way to make sure, one, you're not blowing deer out of the area. You're going to be a lot more quiet. And then, two, if you're hunting near a bedding area or hunting near a feed tree in October where, a lot of deer are going to be in that area, they might bed down amongst the oaks that you're going to hunt. If you go blowing in there and try to get set up quickly, those deer are going to hear you and run. If you take your time and stalk into that hunting location, you'll have quite a few more opportunities to see a deer and maybe even make a play and get within bow range.
The last one, work together with other hunters on public land. And this is counterintuitive because us hunters, we tend to be very competitive, especially when it comes to public land hunts. We're trying to shoo people away, but he did exactly the opposite.
Sure, yeah. As you said, most hunters, when they see other hunters on public land, they take a really negative mindset from that. They're like, oh, crap, I can't hunt in this area because that guy's here, or there's a guy set up over there, or I found this tree stand. And what Greg and the Hunting Public guys really preach is you're going to have a lot more fun on public land if you talk to other hunters. Because whether we like it or not, there's going to be other hunters in that area. So if you talk to them and make a plan and decide where you're going to hunt and where they're going to hunt, you're going to at least know where those people are, how they're doing, what they're seeing. And then in this case for Greg, it worked out phenomenally. He ended up having a guy who was going to go hunt where he wanted to hunt that evening. That hunter was from Wisconsin. Greg gave him that spot and said, like, you can have it. I'll go somewhere else. Greg went to a brand new spot, scouted it that afternoon, hung his saddle up, and ended up killing a buck that night. And then he called the gentleman that he met. That guy came, helped him drag the deer out, and it was just a really, really cool experience. Greg said it was one of the more memorable hunts he's had of recent years.
Well, it's a happy ending to a great story, and speaking of great stories, you put together a real good one here. So, folks, if you want to read more about this hunt that Greg Clements went on, go to outdoorlife.com, go to the hunting section, and look for the article, Tips from the Hunting Public, How to Hunt Whitetails on the Prairie, written by Derek Horner. It's a great read. I think you're going to enjoy it, and I think you're going to like looking at the buck that Greg harvested as well. Derek, thanks so much for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you for having me, John.
We've been telling you about Sportsman's Cove Lodge in Southeast Alaska for a while now. They're truly Alaska's best lodge. Wildlife is abundant, from bears and deer to eagles and whales, and let's not forget the reason you're here, the fishing. Halibut, salmon, lingcod, rockfish, true cod, and more. It's all waiting for you in abundance at Sportsman's Cove Lodge. Book your trip today at alaskasbestlodge.com. That's alaskasbestlodge.com for Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
Hunt of a Lifetime is a nationwide nonprofit organization dedicated to providing hunting and fishing trips to youth 21 and under who suffer from life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. These adventures make big differences in the lives of those who participate in them, and in many cases are literally a dream come true that brings hope and therapy to their lives. Find out more, get involved, or donate today at huntofalifetime.org. That's huntofalifetime.org. huntofalifetime.org.
I'm Anthony Imperato, president of Henry Repeating Arms. Patriotic Americans are looking to protect and provide for their families, now more than ever. Henry has over 200 rifles and shotguns to choose from, made in America or not made at all, and backed by a lifetime guarantee. Go to henryusa.com and order our free catalog, decals, and a list of dealers in your area. That's henryusa.com. Thank you, and God bless America.
Are you looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook, because we've got it right here for you. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer affordable platforms to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting John Kruse through his website at americaoutdoorsradio.com. That's americaoutdoorsradio.com. Hurry, though. If you wait too long, the big opportunity might get away.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. If you're into crappie fishing, you simply have to subscribe to Crappie Now. And you can do so by going to crappienow.com. It's an absolutely free monthly magazine. It's chock full of great information for crappie anglers. And we've got the editor on the line. That would be none other than Richard Sims, who Crappie Now, but he's also the owner of ScenicCityFishing.com and based in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Richard, great to have you on the show again.
Thanks for having me, John. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to help spread the outdoor message.
Well, I wanted to talk about some of the things in the recent edition, I should say the current edition, the March edition of Crappie Now, and one of them is about one of the co-founders of Crappie Now, and also your senior writer, Tim Huffman. He was just inducted into the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. That's a big deal.
It's a very big deal, and if anybody deserves it, Tim does, because he's been contributing to better fishing for fishermen all across the country for 3 or 4 decades now. And, Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame is an extremely high honor. Last year, he was also inducted into the Legends of the Outdoor Hall of Fame, and he's been awarded a laundry list of awards over the years for his writing. And, of course, as you mentioned, he was the co-founder of the Crappie Now magazine. And he decided he was ready to give up the reins on being the full-time editor for that magazine. And so it got handed off to me about 4 years ago.
Well, he's still writing for you, and he's got a very interesting article in this edition of Crappie Now, the 10 best crappie lakes for 2024. Now, we don't have time to go through all 10, but I would like to go through the top 3 that he names and where those are and why they're so good.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll start with number 3. Number 3 on the list is Lake Fork, Texas. And I'm sure fishermen all across the country know about the great fishing in Texas. You hear about it all the time, especially the bass fishing more than anything. Bass fishing gets a lot of attention everywhere, and Texas has got some incredible bass lakes, but they've also got Lake Fork, which is an incredible crappie fishery. Of course, southern states have a longer growing period than the northern states, and so crappie in productive waters grow longer and they grow faster. And Lake Fork is one of those lakes where that occurs, and it's a good chance of catching a 3-pound fish there. Number 2 on the list, actually number 2 and number 1 are lakes in North Mississippi. A lot of folks have already heard of them because they've been in the top 5 and top 10 lists for a long time. Number 2 is Sardis Lake in Mississippi. It's, fishing the 11 to 14 inch range are pretty much routine there. That's just no big deal.
Nice.
Like on my home water on the Tennessee River, our size limit's 10 inches. We're happy to catch a 10-inch crappie. Of course, we catch bigger ones, good numbers of them. But these northern Mississippi lakes, your run-of-the-mill average fish are going to outpace Tennessee River fish by a long shot, which takes us to the number 1 lake, which is only about an hour away from Sardis Lake, and that's Grenada. Grenada's probably been number 1 on the best crappie fishing list for I don't know how many years. It's just a lake that's just full of structure, standing timber. I've been on Grenada a time or two, and I've actually, me and some buddies, we've got a trip planned to Grenada in April ourselves. A lot of people go there because your chances of catching a 3-pound plus crappie there are probably better than anywhere in the world.
That is an impressive
not saying it's going to happen every time by any means. It's still a somewhat rare trophy fish, but your odds of catching one on Grenada Lake are probably better than just about anywhere else you can go.
All right. Well, that's definitely impressive there. 3-pound crappie. That would just be amazing. I live over in the Pacific Northwest and live on a pretty good crappie lake, Potholes Reservoir, with a 9-inch minimum, but I've never pulled anything bigger than 15 and a half inches and maybe 2 pounds out of there. So 3-pound crappie, that's something.
Well, and that's one of the things about either Sardis Lake and Grenada Lake. The lakes, their lakes, they have a 12-inch minimum. You can't keep a crappie out of Sardis or Grenada unless it's at least 12 inches long. Now, and it leads a lot of people to say, oh, if we had a bigger size limit, we could grow and catch a bigger crappie in our lake. That's not necessarily true. It's just that those lakes are so productive. The habitat and the environment is just so good. In the time it takes a crappie in the Tennessee River, for instance, to grow to 10 inches long, those North Mississippi crappie grow to 12 inches long.
Gotcha.
So a 10-inch limit on the Tennessee River is a 3-year-old crappie. And a 3-year-old crappie in North Mississippi is 12 inches long. So it's really no difference biologically. It's just that the fish out there just grow so fast and so well.
Let's talk about one more thing while we've got you on the line. That would be your guide service in the Chattanooga area, Scenic City Fishing. Tell me what kind of fishing you offer.
Well, I'm semi-retired from guiding myself. I still guide a little bit, but primarily I've got 9 other guide partners that all fish on Tennessee River that I book for and work with me. And we have largemouth bass guides, we have smallmouth bass guides, we have crappie guides on a seasonal basis. I've got one guy that guides for walleye. We've got one section of the Tennessee River where they've been stocking walleye, and they're doing great. And then I've got several catfish guides. Of course, Tennessee River's known for its monster blue catfish. And, there's not many things that people can fish for on the Tennessee River that we don't have a guide who can probably help them out.
All right. Well, we certainly have a number of Tennessee affiliates, so if you're tuning in and you're anywhere near Chattanooga, check out ScenicCityFishing.com, book a trip. But in the meantime, you can go to CrappieNow.com and sign up for a free subscription. Again, every month you're going to get some great material.
Well, and I'd like to clarify one thing on that subscription deal with Crappie Now. You can go to CrappieNow.com and read it anytime you want. You don't have to subscribe. All you got to do is visit CrappieNow.com, and you can read it anytime you want. The subscription just simply gets you an email in your inbox every time a new edition comes out that highlights and lists all the articles. So you don't even have to subscribe. Anybody can just go there and read it. The subscription is going to get you an email, a reminder that says, hey, there's a new edition out, and here's what you're going to find in it.
All right. Well, thank you for the clarification on that. And again, the website to go to, CrappieNow.com. Read it on demand or subscribe like I do. Either way, you're going to be a better crappie angler because of it. Richard, thanks for sharing all of this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Sure. Thank you, John. I appreciate you having me.
Come explore the Dalles in Oregon for outdoors fun. Hike amongst the wildflowers, bike our riverfront trail, or visit the Gorge Discovery Center where you can enjoy a live raptor display, or even check out our National Neon Sign Museum. But don't forget the fishing. We've got salmon, steelhead, bass, walleye, and monster-sized sturgeon waiting just for you. When the day is done, tell those tall tales at one of our wineries, breweries, or restaurants and plan your next adventure. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
Immerse yourself in a complete Alaska wilderness experience through Sportsman's Cove Lodge. Up to 6 of you will spend a week in a beautiful waterfront log home in a secluded cove. Every day is a new adventure. Go on a guided fishing trip or haul in a bounty of shrimp and crab. Visit a Native American village where totem poles are carved. Go on a whale or bear watching trip and return back to your very own place at the end of the day. Find out more about the Alaska Wilderness Experience at alaskasbestlodge.com. That's alaskasbestlodge.com.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. We've got Ron Spomer on the line, that very well-known writer and television show host and conservationist and hunter and naturalist, and the man I consider to be the dean of all things when it comes to deer hunting and shooting and rifles. Ron, welcome to the show.
No, thanks for that little excessive build-up there, John. I hope I don't have to live up to
it. You always do. I am not worried about that. You know, fun topic today. There's a lot of deer rifle calibers that have been in use for, we're going to say, like 100 years now. Some of them probably need to be put out to pasture. And, of course, there's always up-and-comers that folks ought to take a look at, too. Let's talk about one caliber in particular that you really think needs to be put out to pasture and just not used anymore.
Oh, boy. You know, this is stepping in it because everybody loves something that you might not. And I hate to, tick them off. And the reality is that everything works within the parameters of its ability and yours. So I won't say that every cartridge that I know particularly like should be thrown in the pasture. But, boy, one that I would like to see go away is the 7.62 by 39 Soviet or Russian, that AK-47 cartridge. That's gotten fairly popular over here, and it'll actually shoot downrange a little more effectively than the 30-30, but the power is right there with it. 150 grain bullet at around 2,100 feet per second, perhaps. And I don't know. I just don't like the idea, especially this day and age, of supporting a Soviet cartridge. I'm an American. By golly, I'm going to shoot a 30-30.
It's funny you mentioned the 30-30 because I thought for sure that was the caliber that you were going to say that needs to be put away, because the ballistics of that isn't nearly as good as a lot of other calibers that hunters are firing today.
Yeah, no doubt. But I think what we have to remember is we don't shoot the 30-30 because of its ballistic performance. We shoot it because of the rifles that it's chambered in, its traditions, and its effectiveness within its range, 150 yards, maybe 200 with an experienced shooter. And that's where most deer are shot by most deer hunters in this country, with the exception of mule deer. But whitetails, blacktails, heavy cover, that old 30-30, even though it's a bit of a dog of a cartridge, it's just extremely popular. It keeps hanging in there. And even though it's been bumped off by everything from a 308 Winchester on up to the 3378 Winchester Magnum, not too many of us want to walk around the woods shooting a 30 by 378. So that 30-30, even though it's an old dog, it's going to hang around for another 100 years.
What are your thoughts on the 243 Winchester, especially when it comes to deer hunting?
Oh, I love it. I use it a lot. Obviously, it's a fairly light bullet, but it's flat shooting. It carries more energy downrange than the 30-30 does. And there's not a heck of a lot of difference between a 100-grain bullet and a 150-grain bullet, especially when you've got more energy in it. And if you get the right construction, those bullets can just do wonders. I have taken a lot of deer out to 300, maybe 350 yards with a 243 Winchester and the older, well, it's not older, but it's more powerful, but not as popular, 6mm Remington. But these days, I think the 6mm Creedmoor is going to come on strong and give the 243 a run for its money. But I think the 243 Winchester has been around for so long, and it's such a standard that it's going to be one that's always with us. And I just think it works great for deer hunting.
Okay, well, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Give me another dog that probably needs to be put down.
Oh, boy. You know, we can go really light with the 22s. A lot of states you can use centerfire 22s for deer hunting, and a lot of guys do it. And even though it's not really a dog, I think the 222 Remington is going by the wayside just because the 223 is more ubiquitous and a little more powerful. Similarly, the 218B, that was a fun little lever-action cartridge, but in a 22, it's too weak, and then that flat-nosed bullet that they used in those tubular magazines makes it even weaker. It only has about 600 to 700 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle, let alone downrange. So I don't think anyone needs to be hanging on to that one too much longer. But on the other end is the 7STW. That one is a full-length Magnum-sized case. It's essentially the 375 H&H neck down. And while it does perform wonderfully, there are other 7mm and 28s now that I think are more efficient, and they got rid of the belt, and a lot of people don't like the belt and everything. So I could see getting rid of that 7STW in favor of the 28 Nosler, for instance.
All right. Let's go to the other end of the spectrum. If, a new deer hunter came to you and said, I want to buy my first deer rifle, I know how to go and sight in a rifle, and I'm a decent shot out to a couple 100 yards, what would you recommend for him?
7mm 08 Remington. A lot of folks think that's kind of a nothing cartridge. People will write me and ask if I think it's powerful enough for deer. Oh, good heavens. It is more powerful than the 7x57 Mauser, also known as the 275 Rigby. And that's what Karamojo Bell used to hunt everything in Africa. He took 800 elephants with that 757.
Wow.
So if that could take an elephant and a Cape buffalo and all the other big stuff he took over there, we can certainly take whitetails with it. I just think it's a beautifully balanced short-action cartridge that has everything a deer hunter wants. You can use a fairly short barrel and get full energy out of it, full velocity out of it. It shoots a little bit flatter, drifts a little bit less in the wind than a 308 Winchester. It's essentially the 308 Winchester neck down to 7. So you've got more efficient, more aerodynamic bullets at a lighter weight. So there's a little less recoil, too. That'd be a big one. And the other one I'd probably say, and some people are going to say you're nuts, but 6.5 Creedmoor. Even though people love to hate that 6.5 Creedmoor, it's essentially the ballistic twin of the 6.5 by 55 Swede, which has been a proven cartridge since 1892. Caribou, brown bears, moose, they hunt everything with it. And if it can do it, the same bullets from that 6.5 Creedmoor can do it. But you need to get it in a hunting rifle, not one of these long-range target rifles. Something that you can carry in the woods and the fields and mixed habitats comfortably. And then you've got yourself a heck of a deer cartridge.
Well, I'm glad I picked that one for my Henry Long Ranger. I feel better about my choice now.
He's Long Ranger shooting accurately for you?
Let's just say the rifle shoots fine. It's the shooter that needs a little bit of work.
Oh, well, I tried one in a 223 Remington. I thought this is kind of silly, a lever action in the Remington 223. I shot that thing under 3/4-inch groups at 100 yards with factory ammunition. Holy mackerel. Out of a lever action. Isn't that something?
Well, that's why you're the dean of shooting, and I'm just an intern. So let's move on to one more thing here.
I don't know.
What's going on in the world of Ron Spomer that folks ought to know about, whether it be television or blogs or articles or whatever else?
Well, we've got RSO TV on which we're doing some hunting videos, but lots of shooting videos that we can't necessarily show the details on the social media channels. They're always canceling things and stuff. So in order to really show a good gun review and lots of shooting and stuff, we're starting to push those over to RSO TV. And you can find that on our website, RonSpomerOutdoors.com. But it is a subscription service because we don't get any advertising dollars the way one does on YouTube for making videos, so it makes it a losing proposition if you don't get some somehow. But we figure it's fairly reasonable, $5 a month, and you can watch all the shows on there in perpetuity, so go for it. And then the other thing, of course, is we've got a podcast channel now, and we also broadcast that on YouTube. So if you want to sit there and watch me talk into a microphone, you can go to YouTube, Ron Spomer Outdoors Podcasts. But that's kind of fun because I'll get a guest on every once in a while. We'll go back and forth the way you and I are now about topics like this. And I also read some of my old stories. A lot of guys that working with their hands, they like to listen to my old magazine articles that I read on the podcast. So that's kind of fun. Then there's the standard YouTube channel. So
okay, look for the Ron Spomer Outdoors podcast channel on YouTube, or go to Ron Spomer Outdoors and consider subscribing and getting all sorts of knowledge about rifles that you're not going to get elsewhere. The website again, RonSpomerOutdoors.com. Ron, thanks as always for sharing your wisdom with our listeners on America Outdoors Radio.
You bet. Always my pleasure, John.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Henry Repeating Arms, and if you're looking for a deer rifle, they've got a whole bunch of them. They actually have over 200 different rifles and shotguns in their lineup. Just go to henryusa.com and check them out. You'll find that all of them are made in America. They're all rugged, reliable. They shoot straight and have a lifetime satisfaction guarantee. And as for deer rifles, you'll find lever-action rifles from Henry in the tried-and-true 30-30, as well as in the Long Ranger series, the 243 Winchester, the 6.5 Creedmoor, the 308 Winchester, and in the new Long Ranger Express 223. Check them all out today and find an authorized dealer near you at henryusa.com. And don't forget to ask for your free decals and catalog while you're there.
Hunt of a Lifetime is a nationwide nonprofit organization dedicated to providing hunting and fishing trips to youth 21 and under who suffer from life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. These adventures make big differences in the lives of those who participate in them, and in many cases are literally a dream come true that brings hope and therapy to their lives. Find out more, get involved, or donate today at huntofaLifetime.org. That's huntofaLifetime.org. huntofaLifetime.org.
Let me introduce you to the Camp Chef high-pressure outdoor cooker line. We built this line of cookers with those summer seafood boils in mind. Whether you're looking to boil for a large group or just for the family, there's a high-pressure outdoor cooker built for everyone to enjoy. They come in 4 different sizes, from 30 quarts all the way to 100 quarts. Put that in perspective, that's 15 pounds of crawfish in the 30 quart and 50 pounds of crawfish in the 100 quart. So no matter how large your party is, you'll have the right tool for the job. These all-in-one kits include a high-output burner, a boiling pot, and a basket with a twist drain strainer for ease of use. Each cooker is equipped with an electric push-button ignition and a powerful burner for a faster boil. If you're looking for the right tool to take on your next cookout, the Camp Chef high-pressure outdoor cookers are for you. When you think of Work Sharp knife and tool sharpeners, you probably think of sharpeners for the shop or the field, but Work Sharp has a whole lineup of sharpeners for the kitchen too. We're talking about everything from easy-to-use manual and electric knife sharpeners to ceramic honing rods, whetstones, and the new rolling knife sharpener, an innovative manual sharpener that will do wonders for your cutlery. Make sure there's never a dull moment in your kitchen. Check out the entire product line and order today at WorkSharpTools.com. That's WorkSharpTools.com.
Attention, small business owners. This could be the most important 10-minute call you will ever make. You may be eligible to receive up to $26,000 per employee through the Employee Retention Credit. Call Omega Accounting Solutions to see if your business is eligible to recover payroll tax paid during the pandemic. All it takes is a quick, easy, free 10-minute consultation to determine your qualifications. Call Omega Accounting Solutions at 800-300-9ERC. Omega's knowledgeable staff will streamline the process of filing complicated paperwork. Omega is the small business champion with teams dedicated to maximizing tax credits. CPAs even turn to Omega for ERC guidance. Take advantage of this exclusive small business tax credit before it's too late. The 3-year sunset deadline is setting soon. So find out if you qualify today. Call 800-300-9ERC. That's 800-300-9ERC. Or visit OmegaTaxCredits.com.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. We've got Tristan Henry on the line. He's the Oregon field representative for the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. And the reason we've got him on is because the Bureau of Land Management, which manages 420,000 acres of land in Southeast Oregon, has come up with a resource plan that's going to make hunters and anglers and outdoors enthusiasts very happy. Tristan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, John.
So before we talk more about this resource management plan that the Bureau of Land Management has rolled out, let's talk a little bit about the landscape in Southeast Oregon. I think most of our listeners have no idea how remote this country is and what wonderful opportunities there are for hunters and anglers.
It is indeed a vast landscape that is rich with opportunity for all manner of recreationalists, but it's even more than you indicated. It's actually closer to 4.6 million acres of public land. The record of decision, which we'll be talking about more in detail here, specifically sets aside 420,000 acres within the plan for specific management type. But the Oahe region itself is a far-reaching high Great Basin environment that goes from the foothills of the Steens all the way to the Idaho border and then some, and down into Nevada. It's a beautiful landscape of sagebrush canyon, plunging canyons, world-famous mule deer, and some phenomenal fishing and bird hunting or bird watching opportunities as well.
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, the Harney County Migratory Bird Festival is coming up pretty quick in the community of Burns in Southeast Oregon. Again, you got the Steens Mountain Range, which is absolutely spectacular. You've got the Oahe River and the Oahe River Canyonlands, which are an amazing place to explore and offer some very good fishing for brown trout, by the way. And then you've got the Malheur River and the Donner and the Blitzen, which have some great fishing there. And don't forget the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, which has been known for some other things besides bird watching, but bird watching is definitely a big draw there. So the Bureau of Land Management, they came together with this plan, and I think a lot of folks don't understand that the Bureau of Land Management manages their lands for multi-use. So you have different parties at the table. Who are some of the parties at the table as this planning process was underway?
Yeah, that's correct. So BLM manages what we call the multiple use mandate, and that essentially means all Americans, all of us who hold deed to our public land have skin in the game. Specifically where the Southeast Oregon Resource Management Plan is concerned, they did a really wonderful job of engaging stakeholders ranging from sportsmen like yours truly to ranchers, and those management decisions even govern mineral extraction, solar development. So it's a wide-ranging spectrum of interest.
And in terms of other stakeholders, it wasn't just the TRCP. Backcountry Hunters and Anglers was involved. I understand Oregon Hunters Association was involved. So there was several advocates for hunting and angling at the table, too.
Quite a few, yes.
All right. So how did this come out as a plan that was a win-win for everybody? What does it look like for us as hunters and anglers?
Well, the beauty of this plan is that while setting directives to manage for those multiple uses and allowing for well-regulated development and industry, it was succeeded in setting aside 420,000 acres inside of the plan's jurisdiction that would be managed to maintain wild backcountry character. And what that means essentially or functionally is that no surface disturbance or development will occur on those lands. That, which for sportsmen among us translates directly to less impediments to wildlife migration, and just general occupancy on the landscape.
Does that mean there's no grazing on these 420,000 acres by livestock?
Not entirely, but surface disturbance in terms of roads, routes, and ways, as well as physical structures.
Well, maintaining 420,000 acres of habitat for fish and wildlife is definitely nothing to sneeze at. As a matter of fact, that is a huge win. How long is this plan? Is this like the old communist 5-year plans, or is this a longer strategy?
I should know that off the top of my head, but I'm fairly new in my role. I know that the plan has been a long time in coming, and it's taken us a while to get here. I believe the likelihood is that it is the presiding plan for over a decade.
Oh, that's great news if it's a decade or more. So that is good to hear. Let's talk a little bit about the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. It's a group that I think a lot of people don't know much about. Tell us about the mission of this organization, this nonprofit.
Yeah, we're a fairly quiet operation. As I mentioned, am new to the team, but have admired their work for a very long time. We are a hunter-angler-focused conservation organization that really does the meat of our work in policy. So we have some incredible professionals throughout our ranks in D.C. and other public land, near the centers of decision-making for public land. People who know the rules intimately and work closely with agency folks and policymakers to make sure that hunting, angling, wildlife, and wild land, as well as working land conservation, is considered in policy wherever it is consequential. And they do a darn good job of it.
Oh, I agree. They've been doing it for a long time, folks. And if you want to find out more about the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, go to their website. You'll find it at trcp.org. That's trcp.org. And check out some of the other things they're doing, too. One thing is fighting to protect a habitat in the Brooks Range of Alaska. We talked to Jen Leahy about that. In the meantime, Tristan, thanks for the work that you are doing in Oregon on behalf of hunters and anglers, and keep up the good work with the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership.
Thank you so much. It's good work worth doing. I'm grateful to be there in the arena.
This portion of the show was brought to you by our friends at Henry Repeating Arms. And if you ever find yourself in Southeast Oregon, you're going to think that you've gone back in time to the Old West. And what better firearm to have if you're back in time in the Old West than a classic lever-action rifle? Henry Repeating Arms makes them all right here in the U.S. of A., and they come in all sorts of calibers. We're talking rimfire calibers like a .22. We're also talking about some of the classics like a .30-30 or a .44-70, as well as newer calibers too. There's over 200 models to choose from. They all come with a lifetime satisfaction guarantee, and you'll find that they're rugged and reliable and shoot straight right out of the box. So go to henryusa.com today, check out the lineup, look for an authorized dealer near you, and ask for your free catalog and decals while you're there. Continuing with conservation news, I mentioned that I got a chance to talk to Jen Leahy. She is the Senior Program Manager for the Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership for the state of Alaska. And she was alerting me to the issue of the Brooks Range. It's a massive area in northern Alaska, stretching basically from the Dalton Highway all the way towards Kotzebue. And it's very remote. It's very inaccessible. Tons of streams out there. There's also some lakes. And pretty much the only way to get in there is by float plane, by and large. There's a couple of roads, but they don't go that far at all. And so you'll have anglers that are targeting sheefish and Arctic char and Arctic grayling, and you'll have hunters who are after moose or especially caribou, as well as other big game species there. And it's one of our last wild places on Earth. Unfortunately, there are some international mining interests, businesses tied to Australia and Canada, that want to build a road, the Ambler Industrial Road, that'll be 211 miles long and will support the opening of several pit mines. And as we all know, pit mines, when things go wrong, can be disastrous for the watersheds that surround them. Not just killing off fish, but killing off just about everything. And as much as these corporate mining operations would tell you that, oh, these things never happen. No, they happen, and we've covered them on this show. The road would also result in, I want to say, like over 2,000 culverts, and culverts, especially when you got a road with permafrost on it, they're hard to maintain, and that causes issues for fish passage. An industrial road like this one, which, by the way, is only open to the mining companies, it's not open to the public, is going to have an effect on caribou migrations. It's something they've seen in another area of the Brooks Range with another road that's much smaller than this one. So what can you do about this? Well, number one, you can find out more, and you can sign a petition asking that Alaska's Brooks Range be protected. The website to go to is huntfishbrooksrange.com. That's huntfishbrooksrange.com. And this is the website for the hunters and anglers for the Brooks Range. When you get there, go to the petition telling the Bureau of Land Management to deny the proposed Ambler Road. And if enough of us do, there's a good chance the Bureau of Land Management just may listen to us, just like they did when it came to resource management planning in Southeast Oregon. One more time with the website, that is huntfishbrooksrange.com. Check it out and sign the petition today. On that note, it is time to go, but here's hoping that your health is good. I am slowly, very slowly getting better with my bum knee, but I'll still be in a leg brace for another 5 weeks. And I hope none of you take any falls like I just did a couple months ago. In the meantime, be blessed. Enjoy the upcoming spring. Get out there in nature, whether you're a turkey hunter or an angler or a hiker or a wildlife watcher. It's all waiting for you. So make the most of it, and remember this: it is your country and your outdoors, so get out there and enjoy it.